11-member committee will be tasked with selecting the new public protector. Incumbent Thuli Madonsela's term comes to an end in October and Parliament will begin its search this week. The committee will include 6 members from the ANC, 2 from the DA, 1 from the EFF and 2 other members of other smaller parties. Well, just how rigorous is this process? We're joined from our Cape Town studio now by Phephelaphi Dube, who is a legal officer from the Centre for Constitutional Rights. Phephelaphi, good morning and thanks for your time this morning. When exactly will the new public protector take up the position?
The public protector should be taking up a new position at the beginning of November, seeing as Thuli Madonsela's term comes to an end at the end of October.
Give us some idea of this process. We've just spoken about the committee that is tasked with selecting the new public protector. How does this process work, the selection of candidates, and then take us through to the actual appointment?
So indeed, the selection starts off with the deliberations that are done by the ad hoc committee that's recently been set up by Parliament. And what they do is canvass for members of the public to send in their applications. And of course, in terms of the Public Protector Act, there have to be certain considerations that have to be taken into account before they consider these applications. So for example, somebody has to have had 10 years of experience either as a High Court judge or in some kind of administrative justice role, and they have to have been, well, obviously a South African citizen, and they need to be admitted as an advocate or an attorney of the High Court. And obviously this person has to be fit and proper, so it means that there shouldn't be any pending criminal investigations into their conduct. There shouldn't be any kind of criminal record. And afterwards, this committee then sits down and deliberates over these names that are submitted to them. And afterwards, they agree on a certain number, and then they pass this on to the National Assembly. And then the National Assembly has to agree by 60%, which is interesting in that it's not just a simple majority, but 60% of the National Assembly members have to agree on a person to be nominated. And once they have agreed on this person, then this name is passed on to the president, and then the final decision lies with the president ultimately.
Does the public get knowledge? I mean, is it made public knowledge as to the number of candidates and who they are before the person is actually selected and then appointed?
Is open to the public at the committee stage, in that members of the public can also submit names, and members of the public can actually sit in on the deliberations. So it will be interesting for members of the public to hear the various reasons that these individuals from the various political parties will advance in terms of trying to reach an agreement as to who the next public protector will be. And it's quite interesting right now that, you know, there are organizations such as Corruption Watch who have started a civil education campaign to get the public involved, to get the public interested in selecting South Africa's next public protector.
So if the public does get involved, if they do put forward a candidate and that person is rejected by the committee, can they ask questions? Can they ask as to why that person was rejected?
Well, we need to bear in mind that ultimately the final decision rests with the committee, but insofar as the committee makes a decision which is based on an irrational basis, then that's really the only time that the decision could be challenged. But if in the face of it, if there are no irregularities, if there isn't any cause for concern in terms of the rationality of the process or any kind of irregularities in the appointment process, then there's really very little say for the public afterwards.
Right, so if the public does want to get involved now and they do have a couple of candidates in mind, where do they go? Who do they contact?
They should be contacting the committee secretary who sits in Parliament, the committee secretary of the same ad hoc committee. Their details are ordinarily available on the Parliament's website, and in fact they're trying to garner as much public attention as possible. So I'm sure they will be making appearances on television and radio and other forms of media in order to canvass public support.
Okay, thanks very much. Phephelaphi Dube, she's from the she's a legal officer from the Centre for Constitutional Rights in our Cape Town studio for us this morning.